Glasgow, our correspondent there, Valerie de Kemp, is standing by for us. Valerie, covering COP26 for us. Valerie, good evening to you. Is there a risk negotiations could collapse if a rift emerges between North and South?
Well, a rift between the North and the global South is always a major risk factor in all climate summits, and COP26 is no exception. And there is a sense of mistrust that has emerged in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, and there are concerns that existing tensions related to vaccine inequality could permeate these negotiations. Campaigners have described COP26 as the widest and most privileged climate summit in the history of climate summits. And that is because hundreds of people from delegations from the global South, from civil society members have been excluded from the talks before because of vaccine requirements, visa requirements. And now there are fears, of course, that COP26 will not be inclusive enough if the people who are standing on the front lines of climate change are not included in the talks. Now, to talk more about the role of developing countries, I'm joined by Yasmin Fouad, Egypt's environment minister. You're very welcome to the show. First of all, what's your reaction to the criticism that COP26 is not very inclusive?
Let me tell you that, first of all, I would like to really compliment the work of the UK on convening that conference in such a critical time, a unique time that the world is passing through with the pandemic. We have already lost 1 year because we were not able to meet because of the pandemic and the vaccine and so forth. We could not afford another year without meeting. Yes, there are criticism that that's not inclusive, but at least we have been doing and trying our best to meet. One part also that Egypt, for example, has been doing is that when there were virtual meetings, Egypt has hosted last June the informal negotiation that started for the SUBSTA and the SBI for the African group, because we wanted to make sure that everyone is there and everyone is part of the process. We're not saying that this conference is very much like others, where we have 20,000, 27,000 or 30,000 plus, but at least we are trying together with all the precautions, with all the PCRs that's being done around. So there is a good intention that we move forward with the Paris Agreement Action Plan.
Talking a bit more about climate finance, that's going to be a major topic of debate. Do you think that COP26 will be able to move the needle on climate finance?
I hope that it would, because that is a bottleneck. It has been a bottleneck since Paris Agreement, since the commitment made by the developed countries of the 100 billion USD that was not reached and has not been reached. What we would really like to see coming out of that COP26 as developing country is at least the agreement on the long-term goal for finance, as well as the definition for adaptation. If that conference came out with those two things, we are moving ahead. But the resolution of the climate finance will not be resolved by the COP26. That is a long debate. That's the key core of the whole process. So if we really move ahead with those two, long-term finance and the definition of adaptation, I think that there's part of the package that would move forward.
We heard French President Emmanuel Macron just a short while ago saying that the goal of 100 billion US dollars could potentially be reached in 2025, and they want to increase the goal further than that. Does the developing world have 4 years ahead of them to wait for this finance?
The idea is not waiting. The idea is that the developed countries are trying to do their best now with the US coming back to the convention. But the idea is that the 2025 is still a far away year. Plus the 100 million by 2025 will not be the amount that would be sufficient to the needs. You know, what I would like to say here, that it's a package. It's a package of developing country identifying their needs and their priorities, and Egypt will work on that throughout hosting the COP27, on putting ahead the needs of the developing country. At the top front would be the African continent. But on the other side, how would that mean in terms of finance and funding? The idea is that We all know, by the way, and that has been written in all the literature, that the 100 billion is not the right amount that was dedicated since 2015. It was symbolic for the developed countries to reach that. What is really needed is trillions and trillions of dollars in order to resolve the climate mitigation and adaptation both together.
We see that the mutual trust between the North and the South has collapsed after the COVID-19 pandemic. What will it take, in your opinion, to regain the trust of developing countries?
One thing is that we're not misinterpreting Paris Agreement, and we're putting Paris Agreement as agreed upon into action, meaning translated the reality of the common but differentiated responsibility. That was the core of the developing country needs in the Paris Agreement.
Thank you very much, Yasmeen Fouad, for sharing your analysis as COP26 gets underway. You heard it there, ambition and finance will be the key topics at COP26.
Valerie and Madam Fouad, thank you both.